He thought she was just a maid. She thought he was just another billionaire with a cold heart. But when a secret heiress hides inside his mansion to escape danger, and the world's most guarded billionaire falls for her without knowing her truth, their love becomes the one thing neither of them can afford to lose. Because when her identity is exposed, he realizes the woman he trusted most is the one person he was never meant to have. Alessandra Moretti had never imagined she would trade silk gowns for a maid's uniform. Yet here she stood, clutching neatly folded linens while the Sterling estate towered over her like the kingdom of a man untouched by ordinary existence. Moments ago, she was a girl whose face had graced magazine covers. Now she prayed no one would recognize her behind a loose ponytail and the alias, Anna. The grand chandelier glittered above her like 1,000 watching eyes as she entered the main foyer. Staff hurried around her with practiced urgency, but Ms. Rowan, the strict head housekeeper, approached with a glare sharp enough to draw blood. "You're late," Ms. Rowan said. "My apologies," Alessandra murmured. "Dominic Sterling does not tolerate delays. Follow instructions, keep your head down, and don't speak unless spoken to." Alessandra nodded quickly, reminding herself she needed this. She needed distance from her corrupt family, from the scandal they pinned on her, from the inheritance they tried to steal. Everything changed the moment she stepped into the West Hall. He was there. Dominic Sterling stood near the window, bathed in cold morning sunlight, jaw tense as he spoke into his phone. His voice was low, velvet-laced with authority. "I said no renegotiation. They either agree or they lose everything." He ended the call. Exhaled. Turned. Their eyes collided. Alessandra felt it. A jolt. A shock. Something magnetic, dangerous, undeniable. His storm-gray gaze swept over her like he was analyzing a puzzle piece that didn't fit the picture. "You're new," he said, stepping closer. "Yes, sir," she whispered. "Where are you from?" Her throat tightened. "Nowhere important." That single answer intrigued him. She saw it in his eyes. A flicker of curiosity, suspicion. But he was a man used to secrets, especially his own. So he didn't press. "Don't enter this wing without permission," he said. "It's private." "Yes, Mr. Sterling." She hurried away before her trembling hands betrayed her. Once safe in the corridor, she inhaled deeply. He was nothing like she expected. Not cruel. Not cold. Just lonely, powerful, and impossible to ignore. She didn't know that one look at her had already cracked something inside him. Something he had sworn would remain unbroken. And she didn't know that Dominic Sterling would soon learn her truth. And it would destroy him first. Alessandra tried to blend into the quiet rhythm of the Sterling household. But Dominic Sterling, a man who commanded entire industries with a single email, was not easy to avoid. His presence echoed in every room, every decision, every shift of tension in the air. Yet it startled her how often she found him watching her. It began during breakfast service. Alessandra placed a silver tray at the long mahogany table where Dominic sat, reviewing documents with the intensity of a man defusing a bomb. She kept her gaze lowered, but she felt his eyes lift, linger, study. "You're not like the others," he said suddenly. Her hands froze. "Yes, sir?" "You move quietly," he said, lifting his coffee. "But not timidly. You carry yourself like—" His eyes narrowed ever so slightly. "Like someone who wasn't born into service." Blood drained from her face. He couldn't know. No one could. I simply try my best," she managed. It wasn't agreement. It was fascination. Later that afternoon, while dusting the library shelves, she sensed him before hearing him. His cologne, sleek cedarwood and smoke, announced him. Dominic stood near the doorway, arms crossed, silently observing. "You've read these?" he asked. She looked up sharply. "I'm sorry?" "You were tracing the spines with your fingertips," he said, eyes unreadable. "People don't touch books that way unless they know them." He moved closer. "Which is your favorite?" Her breath hitched. She should have lied. But something about his voice coaxed honesty. "Jane Eyre," she whispered. His eyebrows lifted, genuinely surprised. "Why?" "Because she chose herself," Alessandra replied softly. "Even when the world tried to decide for her." Dominic stared at her for a long moment, like she had revealed a secret she didn't mean to. "That's rare," he murmured. "What is?" "A woman who knows her own worth." Her pulse thundered wildly. But before she could respond, Ms. Rowan entered, shattering the moment. Dominic stepped away instantly, slipping into the polished, emotionless version of himself everyone else knew. But Alessandra had seen the real him. And he had seen her too. That night, as she lay in her small servant's room, she replayed his words. "You move like someone who wasn't born into service." He was getting too close. And the truth was a luxury she could not afford. Dominic Sterling had always been a man ruled by logic. Emotion was a liability. Attachment, a weakness. Relationships, nothing but strategic alignments. But Anna, the quiet maid with intelligent eyes and soft resilience, unsettled him. He found himself seeking her out without meaning to. When she cleaned the West Wing hallway, he passed by twice more than necessary. When she arranged flowers in the foyer, he paused under the pretense of checking the time. And when she carried laundry through the courtyard, he stopped mid-call, forgetting a multimillion-dollar deal, eyes following her like gravity itself had shifted. It was infuriating. He was Dominic Sterling. He didn't get distracted. But Alessandra Moretti was a distraction he couldn't file away. One evening, rain lashed against the windows as the staff prepared for a formal dinner with investors. Alessandra stood in the ballroom adjusting place settings, unaware Dominic had entered quietly. "You have a talent for beauty," he said behind her. She gasped, nearly dropping a wineglass. "Mr. Sterling, You turned this room into something softer." He approached the table, examining a candle she had lit. "My mother used to do this." Alessandra blinked. "You had a mother?" He smirked. "I wasn't born fully grown in a suit." A small laugh escaped her, light, pure, unexpected. Dominic froze at the sound. Something inside him tugged painfully. He wanted to hear that laugh again. "Where did you learn this?" he asked. Her gaze softened. "From someone I loved." A shadow crossed his eyes. They must have been important. "They were everything," she whispered. A silence fell between them, heavy but warm. "I envy that," Dominic murmured. "Having someone who teaches you beauty. I had responsibility, expectations, pressure, but never softness." The confession slipped out like it had been locked inside him for years. Alessandra's breath caught. He was opening himself to her. A maid he didn't even know. This was dangerous. But the danger grew deeper when a sudden crash broke the moment. Light flickered and the room went dark. Alessandra flinched. Dominic stepped closer instinctively. "Don't move." She felt his breath near her ear. His hand brushed hers in the darkness. And it was electric. Too electric. When the lights returned, they were still standing inches apart. Their eyes locked. His chest rose sharply. Her lips parted in shock. Dominic stepped back first, like retreat was the only way to survive her. But neither could forget that moment. And it was only the beginning. The mansion buzzed with attention Alessandra couldn't understand. Staff whispered. Guards moved quickly. Dominic barked orders into his phone with a tone sharper than she'd ever heard. But what concerned her most was the look in his eyes. Raw, haunted, furious. He found her in the hallway. "Anna, come with me." Her heart stumbled. Did I do something wrong?" "No," his voice softened just barely. "I just need you somewhere safe." "Safe? Why her?" She followed him to his private study, a room no staff member was allowed to enter. He locked the door behind them. Alessandra froze. "Mr. Sterling?" she whispered. Dominic paced the room, hands trembling. Dominic Sterling's hands never trembled. Finally he said, "Someone's been leaking information from the estate. And you?" He turned sharply toward her. "You're the only one I trust to be innocent." Her breath hitched. "Why?" "Because you look at this place like you're surviving it, not scheming inside it." His honesty cut deep. Too deep. "Dominic," she said softly. He blinked. No one called him by his first name. Not employees. Not friends. Not even lovers. Only she did, without realizing it. And instead of correcting her, he stepped closer. "Tell me the truth," he murmured. "Who are you really?" Panic surged through her. I told you." "No," his voice lowered. "There's something in your eyes. Something expensive. Something hurt. You move like a woman who's lived two different lives." Her throat tightened. "Please don't ask me that." "Why?" "Because I don't want to lie to you." Silence. Thick. Electric. Heartbreaking. Dominic reached out slowly, gently tilting her chin up. Then don't. Her lips parted. His breath brushed hers. The moment felt impossibly fragile, like a secret suspended between them. Then thunder shook the windows. Alessandra flinched. Dominic didn't. He pulled her into his arms. It wasn't passionate. It wasn't lust. It was protection, raw and instinctive. She felt his heartbeat against her ear, fast, unsteady, human. "Stay here," he whispered into her hair. "Just tonight. Let me keep you safe." She should have said no. Instead she stayed. Because for the first time since fleeing Italy, she felt her heartbeat settle. In the arms of the man who could never learn the truth. Alessandra spent the night in the study's guest sofa, wrapped in a blanket Dominic insisted she take. She hadn't slept well, she kept replaying the memory of his arms around her. His warmth, his scent, the unspoken need in the way he held her. By morning she expected him to regret it. Instead he brought her coffee. Dominic Sterling, billionaire, feared negotiator, emotionally unreachable, handed her a steaming cup personally. "You looked cold," he said simply. Her heart cracked open a little. The day unfolded strangely. Dominic kept finding reasons to be near her. Little things, innocent things, but too meaningful to ignore. "Anna, walk with me to the garden. Anna, help me choose a wine. Anna, stay a moment." By evening they ended up in the solarium, golden light bathing the room. Alessandra arranged flowers while Dominic sat nearby, watching with an unreadable gaze. "You calm me," he admitted. Her hands paused. "Me? Yes." He leaned back, eyes softening. "Everything in my life is noise. Strategy. Pressure. But you're quiet in a way that makes me feel," he exhaled. "Human." Alessandra swallowed hard. "Dominic?" He stood and approached her slowly, like approaching something delicate. "You never ask me for anything. You don't try to impress me. You don't want anything from me." She hesitated. "How do you know that?" "Because I've met people who want my money, my power, my name." His voice lowered. "But you look at me like none of that matters." She blinked back tears. "It doesn't." He cupped her cheek gently. "Then tell me something real. Anything." Her chest tightened painfully. She wanted to tell him everything. But one truth from her lips could destroy both of them. So she said the only truth that wouldn't break him. "You're not as alone as you think." Dominic inhaled sharply, as if her words touched a wound he kept hidden. Their faces hovered inches apart. His thumb brushed her cheek. Her breath hitched. Time froze. Dominic whispered, "Tell me to stop." She didn't. Their lips met, soft at first, then deeper as something long-starved ignited between them. His hand slid to her waist, hers tangled in his shirt. The kiss wasn't perfect. It was desperate. Human. Real. When they finally broke apart, Dominic pressed his forehead to hers. "Anna," he whispered, voice trembling, "you're becoming dangerous to me." She closed her eyes. He had no idea how dangerous she truly was. In the days that followed, something forbidden blossomed between them, slowly at first, then ferociously, like wildfire consuming a dry forest. He sought her out constantly. She found herself craving him in ways she never had before. One evening he invited her to his private rooftop garden, a place no staff member had ever entered. The city lights glittered below like trapped stars. "You created this?" she asked, marveling at the roses and lantern-lit pathways. "My mother designed it," Dominic said quietly. "I maintain it because it's the only part of her I still have." Alessandra touched a rose petal gently. "It's beautiful." "You're beautiful," he murmured. She froze. He stepped closer, hands hovering near her hips. "Every time I see you, Anna, I lose a piece of myself. And the terrifying part is, I don't want it back." Her heart ached with longing. "Dominic," she breathed, "we can't?" "Why not?" His voice was soft but fierce. "Because you're a maid? I don't care. I can buy 1,000 women with titles and connections. But you," he touched her cheek tenderly, "you're the only one I want. The only one who feels real." Tears pricked her eyes. "You wouldn't want me if you knew the truth." But she couldn't tell him that. "Dominic," she whispered. He kissed her. This time not hesitant, hungry. They sank into the quiet shadows of the garden, wrapped in passion and vulnerability. His lips traced her neck, her hands gripped his shoulders, and everything, Every rule, every lie, every fear, faded beneath the intensity of their connection. When they finally pulled apart, breathless, Dominic held her face in his hands. "Stay with me," he said softly. "Not just tonight. Stay in my life." Her heart nearly shattered. Before she could answer, a sharp siren sounded from the estate's security system. Dominic's expression darkened instantly. Someone breached the north wing. He grabbed her hand. "Come. Stay behind me." They rushed through the corridors. Guards swarmed. The staff watched wide-eyed. When Dominic stopped at the grand staircase, his entire body went rigid. Alessandra followed his gaze. And froze. Her past stood at the bottom of the stairs. Her uncle, Giorgio Moretti. The man who orchestrated her downfall. The man who stole her inheritance. He smirked. "Well," he said in Italian, "if it isn't the runaway heiress." Dominic turned to her slowly. "Heiress." Anna was no maid. His face went cold. "Alessandra," he whispered. Her world collapsed. Dominic had been betrayed before. By lovers, by business partners, by people he trusted. But nothing sliced him open like the sight of Alessandra shrinking beneath her uncle's cruel grin. "Anna?" Dominic said, voice cracking. "Your name is Alessandra?" She reached for him. "Dominic, please. Don't." He stepped back like her touch was poison. "Were you ever going to tell me?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I planned to, just not like this. I needed time." "Time to what?" His voice sharpened. "Manipulate me? Gain access to my company? What did you want, Alessandra? Money? Power? My name?" "No," she cried. "I wanted none of that. I only wanted safety." Her uncle laughed. "Safety? From your own family? Really, Cara, you dramatize." Dominic's jaw clenched. "Why is she here?" "To retrieve what belongs to us," Giorgio said. "My niece ran away with critical documents. She thinks she's clever, but she knows nothing about how the world works." Alessandra trembled. "Dominic, please believe me. I left because they tried to force me into a marriage. Because they blamed me for crimes I didn't commit. I ran because I had no one else to trust." Dominic stared at her. The woman he kissed, held, protected. The woman he almost admitted he loved. "You lied to me," he whispered. She broke. Her tears spilled like shattered glass. "I lied about my name. Not about my feelings." Giorgio stepped forward. "She comes with me." Dominic moved instantly, instinctively, placing himself between them. "No," Dominic said. Alessandra gasped. Giorgio smirked. "Ah, so you care." Dominic's voice dropped to steel. "She stays until I understand everything." Security tightened around the room. Tension burned the air. Alessandra sobbed softly. "Dominic, I never meant to hurt you." He didn't answer. Because he wasn't sure which pain was worse. Her lie. Or the realization he still wanted her despite it. Alessandra was escorted to a private guest room. Not a cell, but not freedom either. Dominic gave the order himself. She curled up on the bed, knees to her chest, replaying his expression over and over. Cold. Shattered. Beautiful in heartbreak. Hours later the door opened. Dominic entered. He closed it gently behind him. She lifted her head slowly. "Dominic?" He stared at her a long, silent moment. "You should have told me," he said quietly. "I was scared you'd send me away." "I should have." His voice strained. "But I didn't." She swallowed. "Because he loved her." He didn't say it. He didn't need to. He stepped closer. "Tell me everything." So she did. The Moretti fortune. Her father's death. The forged documents. The arranged marriage. The threats. The fear. And finally, "I came here because I wanted one place in this world where no one cared who I was." Dominic sat beside her, elbows on his knees. "I cared." She reached for his hand but stopped. "And now?" His chest rose shakily. "I don't know." Silence. Heavy. Breaking. Then, he whispered, "I wanted you to be real." She pressed a trembling hand to his cheek. "Everything you saw in me was real. Alessandra, Anna, both were me. The girl who loved your roses. The girl who made you coffee. The girl who kissed you like she'd been starving for it." Dominic closed his eyes. Her truth. Her honesty. Her vulnerability. It seeped into the cracks her lies had made. Finally he whispered, I can't lose you. She choked on a sob. Then don't. He pulled her into his arms. Their embrace wasn't passionate. It was forgiveness wrapped in sorrow. It was two broken people choosing each other despite everything. But the moment shattered when Dominic's phone rang. He answered sharply. What do you mean there's a breach in the West Wing? His face darkened. He stood abruptly. Stay here, he ordered. Dominic. I'm not losing you, he said fiercely. Not now. He kissed her forehead and rushed out. Alessandra's chest tightened with dread. Something terrible was coming. Alessandra paced the room, panic clawing at her lungs. She'd lived with danger, greedy relatives, forged contracts, power-hungry men, but this felt different. Because now she had something to lose. Someone. Suddenly, a crash outside the door made her jump. Dominic, she whispered. The door burst open. A guard stumbled inside, bleeding. Miss Moretti, run. He collapsed. Before she could react, Giorgio stepped into the room, gun in hand, coat dripping from the storm outside. Hello again, Alessandra. Her blood froze. What are you doing? What I should have done the moment you disgraced our family. He aimed the gun at her. You cost me everything. Fortune. Reputation. Control. She backed away until her spine hit the wall. I didn't steal anything. You stole my power. He stepped closer. And now you will pay. A gunshot exploded through the room. But not from Giorgio. Dominic stood in the doorway, chest heaving, eyes wild with rage. His security team swarmed behind him. Touch her, Dominic said, voice like liquid fire, and I'll end you myself. Giorgio turned his gun toward Dominic. Dominic didn't even flinch. You're insane, Giorgio spat. No, Dominic said. I'm in love. The words stunned Alessandra. Even Giorgio hesitated. Dominic fired. Giorgio's gun dropped. Guards tackled him instantly. Dominic rushed to Alessandra, hands shaking as he cupped her face. Are you hurt? She sobbed. You came back. I told you I wouldn't lose you, he whispered fiercely. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the only real thing left in the world. It's over, he breathed against her hair. You're safe. You're safe now. But Alessandra wasn't crying from fear. She was crying because the man she loved had just risked everything for her. And because he had said the one thing she had never expected to hear. I'm in love. The next morning was washed in quiet sunlight. Giorgio was taken into custody. His crimes, fraud, coercion, attempted harm, would keep him away for a lifetime. Alessandra's name was cleared by documents Dominic personally helped pull from international archives. But the real peace came when Dominic found her on the rooftop garden, the place where they first let their hearts speak. She turned when she heard his footsteps. Dominic? He walked toward her with a softness she'd never seen, like every wall he'd ever built had fallen in a single night. I meant it, he said. Her breath hitched. Meant what? That I'm in love with you. Tears welled in her eyes. He reached for her hand. She placed it in his trembling palm. You changed my life, he continued. You showed me beauty again. You made me feel alive. And I don't care that you're an heiress or that you lied in the beginning. I care that you stayed, that you fought, that you survived. Alessandra wiped her tears. I thought you hated me. I thought I did too. He cupped her face. Until I realized hating you hurt more than loving you ever could. She laughed through her tears. Dominic Sterling, are you confessing? He leaned his forehead against hers. I'm begging. For what? For a future. Her heart exploded in warmth. He kneeled, Dominic Sterling, the untouchable billionaire, and pulled out a small velvet box. Alessandra gasped. He opened it to reveal a ring kissed by sunlight. Not marriage, he said softly. Not yet. But a promise. Stay with me. Build a life with me. Let me love you the way you deserve. She didn't hesitate. Yes, she whispered, tears falling freely. 1,000 times yes. He stood and kissed her, slow, gentle, full of everything they'd survived to reach this moment. The city roared below. The roses swayed in the breeze. And Alessandra Moretti finally felt home. Not in a mansion. Not in a title. But in Dominic's arms. As they held each other, he whispered in her ear. You were never my mate. You were always my destiny. She smiled through tears. and for the first time in her life, she believed it, and as their hearts finally found peace, not as a billionaire and a maid, not as an heiress and a man born of power, but simply as two souls who chose each other, their love became the story they never thought they deserved. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.